So we're gonna try something different today, a different type of video, and I actually wanted to go in depth about a condition that I have that is called Tourette syndrome. And I wanted to just take some time and make a video and explain kind of, how it affects my life and even Megan's as well, and during our vlogging and whatever we're doing just in daily life, and just explain a little bit of that to you guys. So Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder that actually it sends mixed signals in my brain to different parts of my body, whether it be vocal or what they call motor tic, so something that I move my body parts in a way that's usually pretty unusual to a regular person or a normal person. So it could be me making weird sounds or weird movements, but it's something that I've dealt with since I was about, I think, 8 years old, and that was when I was officially diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, and I've had it ever since, and it's been, it's been a roller coaster, that's for sure. I know she can definitely attest to that, but it's something that it's gone back and forth, and I've had to deal with it in different ways.
We have notes on a phone.
Yeah, we kind of took some
basing things off of
some notes so that we could just have a little bit of a storyline to go off of.
What's it like to have Tourette's?
I would say it's, it can be in some ways a blessing and a curse, but it's definitely a struggle through daily life. When I was growing up and going to school, grade school specifically, it was quite tough, and there was arrangements that I was able to make school a little bit easier, but fortunately I didn't have to deal with a whole lot of bullying or issues like that. People make comments and they have their questions and stuff, which is pretty normal for me, but it was tough. It's stressful. I was very anxious, and I had a lot of issues with anxiety growing up. So that was probably the toughest part, is, waking up in the morning and you do not want to get out of bed. You do not want to go to school. You don't want to face all the people there and stuff. And it really was tough. Moving on from grade school and going into like high school and stuff, it definitely was a different type of picture when it came to that. I didn't attend regular high school in the same way that I did grade school and have to kind of work through it. I actually went to an alternative school, and the tics at that time, and the tics are, to explain again, those are the actual movements or sounds I'm making. They refer to them as tics. They weren't as bad during that time. So I think more so the anxiety and a lot of those types of things were causing me to be a little bit more uncomfortable to go to school, to go to high school. And I actually ended up going to an alternative high school and finished up my schooling there and graduated on time with, my friends and everybody else. But again, it was, like I said before, kind of a roller coaster. It was up and down and all over the place, and it definitely made it tough regardless. It was always something there kind of pushing me, for good or for bad. But yeah, that's the main way I could describe what it was like having Tourette's.
So you graduated 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Because I graduated 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But you did your last year 90% online.
Yeah.
To get past that, and like you ended up having different anxiety about going to school, going to class, going and being and sitting in those things.
Yeah.
And even though it was, because the alternative school for where we went, it was very small, it was very personable, one-on-one. It was very one-on-one in a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That it's kind of everyone was grouped together in different classes.
Yeah.
And so doing stuff online made you more comfortable and made you kind of look at things as like that was more of a safety net than going in class.
Yeah, it allowed me to pursue those same types of things in a different way that was a more comfortable setting for me.
Yeah.
That was definitely a huge issue. The biggest thing is, part of Tourette syndrome, you have to work on something they call suppression, and being able to suppress the tics and basically keep the tics from coming out. so that it doesn't look socially unacceptable from your point of view. I mean, if you're making these weird movements and sounds, you know, people are going to start looking at you. And I always hated that. That was something that was the worst thing ever, is to have people, the darting looks at me and that type of thing. So you could imagine when I'm in class and I've got people, I mean, they're not sitting much farther than Megan is from me right now. And if they don't know who I am, or they don't know anything about me, they're going to instantly judge me for that. And I was, for some reason, never comfortable with talking about it. I was never comfortable with just being open and saying, hey, I have Tourette syndrome. You know, this is what it is, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. I don't know why I was never comfortable with that.
I mean, you still aren't 100% comfortable with it. You would still rather have people learn from someone else that you have it.
Yeah.
But you've opened up over the past year and a half pretty openly about, like, yep, this is what I have, and
yeah,
it's
no, and I agree. And I used to kind of let people take over for me, and I do regret that to a certain extent. You know, I would just, if someone was around that didn't know who I was, I would kind of wait until the point, and they might ask a question, and I might just say, oh, it's nothing, and someone else might say something for me. And you know, now that I think back on that, it's really not ideal, because I should just be open about it. I'm gonna look and seem as a better person if I can just go to that person and tell them, hey, I have Tourette syndrome, and
it's a teaching moment instead of hiding from it.
Yeah, I agree with you. So have you ever heard what they have described a tic feel like before?
I mean,
like, as far as the urge of a tic.
You've explained a little bit, but
okay. A lot of times they'll describe a tic as kind of like a sneeze, and one of the words they use is irrepressible, which means you can't hold it in, you can't help it. That's true to a certain extent, but it kind of is like a sneeze. When a sneeze comes on, you could probably make the sneeze go away, but at the same time, most of the times the sneeze just happens and you can't really help it. And that's a lot of times what a tic can feel like, whether it's a vocal tic or a movement tic. But like a vocal one, you might feel almost as if there's a bubble in your throat or some feeling in your throat, and you just have to relieve that pressure and that feeling. So that's how I would probably describe what a tic feels like. So I have a question for you, Megan. So what is it like living with someone who has Tourette's?
It's an adventure. Say that.
I'm an adventure.
Well, for me, I'm a very patient person anyway.
She is. She definitely is.
So it's, I don't want to say that, like, I mean, there are times I do get irritated. I don't want to say, like, validate that I'm irritated by it, because you can't help it.
Yeah.
It's something that, like, well, I should say, I get migraines really easily. And I don't want to say really often, but often enough.
Yeah.
And if you are, like, laying next to me, or you're sitting there, like, trying to help me through it, and you have a vocal tic, it hurts.
Yeah, it can be loud at times and stuff.
So it's just getting used to them, knowing what moods and what things can set you off in them, because they follow pretty along with your short temper. And like, if you're working on a project, if you're really into it, it can kind of be one way or another, so it can be super suppressed, and I mean, not necessarily
if
suppressed.
I'm really focused on something,
yeah, like, it's more of like they're gone for that moment. Or is if you are working on something and you get irritated, it can set
it's
like
off
a wave then. It's you want to help, but then you don't want help, and it's just,
it can be a bit of
it's kind of a cycle. But
it is
just learning how to deal with it, learning what can set them off, being understanding, and trying, to remember that it's you're human, and that's part of you. The one thing too is that sometimes they can go off with suggestions. So you'll sit there, like, jokingly pinch me, and I'll say, don't pinch me, and then you pinch me like 4 or 5 more times.
Oh yeah. I mean, There's all different types of tics, and that's the thing that it's probably hard for most people who haven't dealt with it in their life to get used to. Is something can come out of nowhere, or it can develop over a matter of days. And it's kind of unexpected at times.
Yeah, it's different, and it makes, life interesting, but I mean, I wouldn't know what you would be like if you didn't have it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we love each other for who we are. That's what's important, right? So the major topic of what it's like to vlog with Tourette's, because I've told a little bit about growing up and what it's like for me and what it's like for Megan as well.
Can I ask a side question before we get to this?
Yeah.
Before you get to how it is like with vlogging, with having a camera, a phone, being more in the public, being more vulnerable in public because of those things, what is your stress level? What is your anxiety level? Where would you put yourself at on a normal day if we're out in public shopping or walking around, just doing something, and then add in what that feels like when you're vlogging it?
Okay. And as of right now, like during, right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say out in the regular public, at the store, going out and doing an activity, I like to disc golf, going out and doing something like that, going on a walk with my dog and Megan as well. It can be tough at times. We live in Michigan, and we are required as of right now to going into any type of building, we have to wear a mask, or any major public area. So that's definitely a part of it as well. It feels kind of restricting to wear the mask. So if I'm going into the store, it can be definitely tough at times. There's a lot of people, they're at every angle. I'm very trained to watch for where people are at, because I'm trying not to set people off and cause them to look at me and dart their eyes towards my direction. But that in turn causes me to stress myself out, to make myself more anxious, and it can a lot of times make the tics worse. So that is something that you can imagine when we're vlogging. One of our vlogs, we went to the zoo, and we didn't have as many people around us, but when there are groups of people walking around us, I feel that same way. I kind of, as I walk into a group of people, or one of the animal shelters where there's people already looking, I can start to feel that stress, that anxiety rise up in me, and that's where it might start to trigger the tics more, when we're walking into a situation like that. But it's definitely something where I do honestly feel like at times it's not all bad. It's when I'm vlogging and we're talking and stuff, even right now, you might see that the tics really are not as bad as they are when she's talking, or at a different point. And I do feel like at times when we're vlogging, when we're filming each other and just enjoying ourselves, it's really not as bad, and I kind of forget about it. When I'm doing something that I'm interested in and enjoying and I really love it, it's almost like I can forget about it. And I think that's something that you probably noticed before as well. But it's quite cool that is possible, and I would definitely say that if I'm really enjoying myself, I can almost forget about the situation and just have fun.
Yeah, and so far, obviously we vlogged a bit. We haven't done as much as we want to, and that's partially just because I don't have a ton of free time, I should say.
Yeah.
But it's still new, and it's continuing to change, and obviously this is something that it wasn't said earlier, but Tourette's goes in waves. So he can be in a really bad wave for a few years, and it'd be almost non-existent for a few years after that. It's a
you
weird
never know.
cycle. It has a mind of its own, really.
Yeah.
And so it's just learning how we're going about it now, and going through everything now. Obviously, that'll change in time.
Yeah.
And we'll know more in time about how you can get through it, you can pass through it, and what you're feeling versus what you're suppressing during those times in the future.
Right, right.
So
Yeah. It's overall it's definitely a challenge, and it's something that we've both had to work through, and I have to build myself up before each and every one that we go out and do. But I'll be honest, I mean, it's at times it's a little more awkward to hold the camera right in front of you and be filming yourself than it is to worry about people and what they think of you. So that's a good thing.
Do you ever forget, not necessarily forget, but does the fear of then filming in public override the fear of a tick in public at times?
I would say so. I would definitely say I feel more nervous at times to, start filming each other or ourselves in public, and we're still working up to that point as well. That it's something that it definitely could be more nerve-wracking for me than actually worrying about the tics in the public.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you, and the question is, do you see me any differently for having Tourette's?
Not really. So at this point, we've been together 5.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
For the first 8-9 months,
Yeah.
you didn't tell me.
It was kind of non-existent.
Well, it kind of was, but I also knew there was something
going on.
But I didn't know. I've never heard about Tourette's. The first time you told me through a, incredibly long text message was the first time that I found out. And so I didn't spend a ton of time researching, because obviously it is different per person.
Yeah.
And per case. And, like we just said, it goes in waves. But, I mean, I don't know you without it.
Yeah, I think it's become a new normal for you.
Yeah, I don't know how I can look at you differently.
Yeah, and you've never been judgmental towards me for it, and in many ways, she's the perfect person for me for those reasons.
I'm patient, extremely patient.
Yeah, you have a very, very patient personality. I would say the last thing we can go over is you might be curious whether or not there is a treatment for Tourette's. And the unfortunate answer is there is not an actual cure. There are treatments. I should say there is not a cure. There are treatments for it. They have not found anything such as
well, the only thing that we know of that can basically cure it is getting brain surgery.
Yeah, there is
a certain brain surgery.
There is it's called DBS, or deep brain stimulation, and it's a pretty invasive surgery into the depths of your brain. And they actually sends electrical pulses to regulate those signals that I was talking about that are sent throughout your body. It's an expensive option, and it's hard to get to that point because you have to basically exhaust any other options beyond that. But there's your typical medications. There's your something called habit reversal, where you work on just being able to suppress the tics in your normal everyday life. So another one would be neurofeedback, which is actually one that tracks the electrical impulses of your brain, and it uses your senses such as sound, sight, and hearing to be able to regulate the way that your brain responds to different things in life. So I don't know a ton about that one, but I have tried it before.
Yeah.
And, it's helpful for things. It's helpful for tics. It's helpful for anxiety, for depression, for headaches, migraines.
Some people use it for like anger management.
Yep.
The easiest way, at least from what I understood her explaining it to us, is it looks at 2 points on your brain. It takes those waves and matches them and finds where it's compatible so that they work properly together.
Yeah, an optimal frequency.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was another one. Those are the major ones that are treatment options. And it's, the thing is there's no guarantee. It's not something that you can just say, oh, well, I will do this and it's going to make it all better.
Yeah.
Because, I've tried things and they don't work. They actually make other things worse and doesn't really help with the thing that you're actually trying to fix in the end. So.
And it's like sometimes diet can help a bit, but everything generally helps to a certain point. like medications work to a certain point. They can also cause other side effects.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, neurofeedback, it works to a certain point, but it can also be that you get into like a negative, you know, couple of weeks. So it can be not necessarily that like your tics could be worse, but you had like a really bad mood for those few weeks, and that was because of it, because it wasn't the right frequency that was found at that point.
Yeah, it can definitely vary.
Yeah.
So it is by all means a trial and error. That is the best way to describe those treatments. So,
and it's by person, it's by time that it's at in this cycle. It's all case by case.
Yeah. So with this video, I mean, we just want to be transparent with you guys and just be honest about it. I mean, the biggest thing as well is just teaching other people about this condition and about Tourette syndrome and being able to understand it so that other people around me, they don't need to feel like they need to go through the same things that maybe I went through, and that they can be able to be more confident in their life. And if I can even reach a single person and help them feel more confident about what they're trying to do, go get a job, if they're trying to vlog themselves, if they're trying to go back to school or something like that,
get the courage to feel better to go out of their room, because they don't want to, you know, deal with it. They don't want to be around other people dealing with it.
Yeah, because by no means do I have the worst case, the most severe case. I mean, it probably doesn't even seem that way in this video, because it can, like she was saying, it goes in waves, even within every hour of the day. It varies. But people have it way worse than I do, and that's me being completely honest and transparent. And I do feel for those people. My heart goes out to them, as they must struggle through a lot of things in their life. So, but that's really what we wanted to film this for, is just to be open for it to be a learning experience, and hopefully people can see this and learn from it. I guess if you guys have any other questions, if there's things that you're confused about or you would like to know more about, I have no problem answering them. So feel free to leave a comment. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think that covers about everything. So thanks guys for watching, and we appreciate your time, and we'll catch you in the next vlog then, okay? See ya.
Bye.